Hello, good afternoon, everyone. As you may already know, my name is Helen Barriere. I am the program manager for the HSI STEM program. Earlier in the summer of 2020, we hosted our first Step into STEM virtual version. Step into STEM is a 2-week summer bridge program for incoming STEM freshmen. They complete the ALEX math program in addition to attending workshops that will help gear their first year and first semester here at Cal State Long Beach. This year, due to the pandemic, we had to flip the program into a virtual model, and you will get to meet 3 different students that participated in this program in summer of 2020. We will get to hear about their lessons learned, and we will also get to see what advice they have for you as students in the upcoming semester. Welcome, everyone. So I would like to introduce to you 2 freshman engineering and science students that joined us for Step into STEM in the summer of 2020. So I will go ahead and let them introduce themselves, and then afterwards I will start asking them a couple of questions, both about their experience in the program, but also with their first semester and how that went and any tips that they may want to share with you. So Daisy, do you want to kick us off?
Okay. So my name is Daisy Martinez. I am a freshman studying aerospace engineering. And yeah.
Thank you. Zai?
Hi, my name is Zai. I'm a first year student at Long Beach in the College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics, and I am majoring in pre-molecular cell biology and physiology.
Okay, thank you for introducing yourselves. So my first question is going to be, why did you apply to Step into STEM? Because I really want to know what encouraged you to do so and what encouraged you to say yes once we gave you the offer for the program. So whoever wants to take it.
Okay. The reason why I applied particularly is because one of the main aspects was to like explore and familiarize with yourself with the CSUOB resources, and I wanted to get like a head start before I actually jumped in. Although we are online, I felt yeah, it's going to be 10 times harder because I don't know anyone that's going to CSUOB. So I'm like, what's a better way to actually meet new people? And you also get a peer mentor, which I thought was really nice, so that I can actually form connections, and then just not with the team, the members that I was with, but also like the peer mentors.
Great. And Zai?
Yeah, I actually participate for the same reasons. When we were emailed the flyer, I saw that we received help for the Alex math tests, which I thought was really helpful because Alex determines what math courses you qualify for eventually. And I also really wanted to build connections, especially because of the pandemic, and we have a limited opportunity to meet other people.
Great, thank you so much. So then my next question is, what do you feel you gained out of it? And do you feel, let's answer that question and then we'll move on to the next question. Daisy,
Okay.
go.
What I gained out of it was mostly like just connecting with others, and also with like just forming friendships, you can say. Although it was kind of still hard at first because we were spending like 2 weeks. We had to meet new people. Like I remember the first couple of days for my group, we had our cameras off, and then our peer mentors are like, "Okay, we're gonna turn on the cameras today." And then just like having those memories, just like the camera on was such a big deal. And then also, I felt like they also, my peer mentors also emphasize like balance, so they also gave us tips, which is like creating a schedule where you can balance your engineering courses and your GEs. And I felt like that was a really helpful advice, because imagine taking like 15 units of just engineering courses could be a lot. So yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Sai.
Participating in STEP helped me feel like I had a support system. I met students who were extremely encouraging, and it made me feel like less anxious to attend Long Beach online. Like, yeah, I'm still scared, but I felt more comfortable because I was in a group, like I was in a situation where I could ask questions in front of people, and I was learning along with people before the semester even started. And I also feel like by being in STEP, we learned about campus resources such as CAPS, BMAC, and more.
Great, thank you. So having gone through STEP, and then I'm sure you met students that didn't go through STEP. do you feel that there was a difference? Do you feel that it helped you in your first semester at Cal State Long Beach? Zai, I'm gonna start with you if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, the friends I made throughout my first semester didn't go through STEP, and I felt more prepared. Like I felt like I had a head start, and when like simple tasks didn't seem so like as challenging, because I remember the first couple of assignments on through STEP was to submit assignments on Beachboard. And because we already did it over the summer, I felt less anxious about doing so in the fall semester.
Great, thank you. Daisy?
Yeah, the same thing. Yeah, the uploading was kind of tricky with just Step into STEM, but then once you get the hang of it, it was really helpful. And then also one thing Step into STEM emphasized was tutoring, and then I felt like we already knew where to look for tutoring and where you can like book an appointment. So I felt that was really helpful.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Zai, you mentioned knowing about CAPS and different offices on campus, and Daisy, you mentioned tutoring. Can you share if you've attended any of those and what your experiences have been so far and what encouraged you to go to them in the first place? Daisy, you mentioned tutoring. Did you go to tutoring this semester?
Yes, I did quite often actually.
Can you tell us what office and how it was for you?
So it was for the Center of Engineering. And I went for my engineering class. It was for SolidWorks. I found myself struggling from the very get-go. So I'm like, we gotta go to tutoring. And my experience with it was very helpful. I remember I booked an appointment and you can choose like a certain tutor. So I just selected a specific tutor and I went and they were really helpful and they offered me like even a free online PDF of the textbook, which I couldn't even find. So I'm like, thank you for that. And they also even went like step by step and like, they're like, okay, do you have any questions here? Any like where I would get stuck? And that really cleared everything. So I'm like, thank you.
Great, thank you. And Zai, I actually have a question for you because you're doing research, correct? Can you tell us what program you applied to, why you applied to it, and even what you've gotten to do this semester with research as a freshman?
Okay, so I'm under Europe, which is the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, and I did not know about it until I attended Step into STEM. I didn't even know that first and second year students can do research, but one of the peer mentors mentioned, oh yeah, first and year students do have the opportunity to start, and I ended up applying and I got accepted. And once you get into the program, we are given a list of research projects we can apply for, and its requirements. And I applied for Dr. Bittner's research project, which is visual heart rate responses. And yeah,
Great.
I'm not sure what I
No,
what I can
that's what I
offer.
was
So
looking for. That's
okay,
what we were looking for. So you're currently doing that now, and then you will continue in the spring semester doing research as well, correct?
mhm.
Okay. So the next question that I have for you that was not in the guide that I sent you is what classes did you take the fall semester? So walk us through how many units, what classes you took, and even how you prepared for them as you went through the semester. So Daisy, I'm going to start with you.
So I took Math 122, which is Calc 1. I also took MEE 172B, which is my engineering class for SolidWorks. I also took 1 unit of Engineering 101 and then also Music 190, which is an intro like listening approach. And I also took Communications 130. So in total, it was 13 units.
Okay, great, thank you. And then how about you, Zai?
um, during the fall 2020 semester, I took Chem 111A, NSCI 19. Would you like me to go into like okay, NSCI 190A, which is like an experience to success program for
Mhm.
freshmen. It just helps us navigate our way through Long Beach, even though like as online students. And I took political science. Um, I took SCED 100, and sorry, I'm blanking. I'm sorry.
Is
Uh,
it-
and I took Math 119A. And
Okay,
I also took a 1 unit course for Europe,
yes. Okay, great. Thank you. So,
which
mhm,
oh,
go for it.
which was a total of 16 units.
Okay, yeah. So a difference in unit load, but how did you prepare for your classes? Did you study equally? What did you do for your STEM classes? And by STEM, I mean the science, technology, engineering, and math classes. How did you prepare for those?
I utilized my online resources as well as like try to also ask for like peer help, which I in combination like with YouTube and my textbook and then like the practice problems I was given, I was trying to manage that. And then if I didn't understand something, I reached out to classmates, which I was super lucky because we already had like a group chat where we can actually like communicate with one another, and it was really helpful. But also like learning how to divide your time. So I would dedicate like math maybe Monday, Wednesday, and then like engineering Tuesday, Thursday, so I wouldn't get overwhelmed with just one subject.
You said balance earlier, and I think it goes back to that. How about you, Zai?
Yeah, I basically did the same thing, except I guess I didn't focus so much on the days personally. It depended on my homework assignments and the workload per course that week. But I spent most of my time focusing on Chem 111A, which I and to prepare for that, I mostly went to the SAS Center and also connected with other students. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So this question you have kind of answered for me, Zai, in one aspect, because you did Europe, right? And you talked about that process. But did you, either of you, become involved in campus organizations and or events? If so, what were those? And if not, why not did you attend? So Daisy, we can start with you because I know that you have joined some student organizations. So I want you to talk to us about that.
So yes, I got involved just because I wanted to have like a sense of community and because you also get to meet upperclassmen and they can give you like recommendations whether on professors, classes, and yeah. So I joined two clubs that focus more on like Hispanic Latinos going into STEM. I really wanted that community because I know not that many Hispanics or Latinos go into STEM. So they were MAES, which is like Mexican Americans in science and scientists. And then the other one is SHIP, which is like specifically like they both serve the same purpose, which is for Hispanics. And then I also participated in Societies of Women Engineers, and I also did Beach Team, which is something not related to STEM. So yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. And how about you, Zai? Did you join any clubs or student organizations?
I looked into clubs and student organizations, but I personally got scared. Like I felt like I would have been overwhelmed with my course load and being in Europe. So I did try and look into them, and I went for meetings, but I ultimately decided that I think I need more time to properly join campus organizations.
Yes, and that's okay because I think one of the things that we talked about, at least in my memory, in Step into STEM was to make sure that we are balancing and then we're prioritizing that because we don't do one semester doesn't mean we can't do it again. So you can always join clubs in your sophomore, junior year, maybe your second semester, freshman year. And then Daisy, I know that you were very active, right, in the student organizations. What did you learn from your student org work? And then Zai, your question will be, what have you learned from research? So I really want to know what are some of the things you've learned in research this semester. You can kick us off if you'd like.
Referring to me or
To research, walk us through what you're doing, your processes and the things that you're learning. And, are you involved in any papers, things like that?
so being involved in research helped me learn how to manage I learned how to manage my time more. And also I learned how to communicate to faculty more. I felt like in high school, we were expected to do everything alone. And while yes, because we're online, it's kind of a self-paced situation. I also learned that you're not alone. You can reach out for help. You're not expected to suffer, you know? You're expected to do your best by reaching out. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Daisy, what did you learn from the student orgs?
What I learned was one to like don't hesitate to reach out. Like everyone's like also willing to help you. And also with time management, like what Sai said, like it really does help you kind of improve on your time management, see what you prioritize. And also the clubs also emphasize on like your soft skills, which is like your communications and also like your leadership. So
Great. So one question that popped in my head just now is you went from having a middle semester of being a high school senior online, and then you went into the summer program and it was completely online. How was your experience in your first online classes? Talk to me. Think about week 1, week 2. How did you feel? What did it look like? How did you adapt? You can take a couple of seconds. And also what were the population sizes in your classes? That's another question that I have for you. So I think Daisy, we can start with you if you're ready.
I was super anxious. Like I won't lie about that. Like I'm just like, cause just like I hear stories about college and I'm like, they make it sound and it kind of is scary. Like and you're like stepping into like something unknown. And but step into STEM like really helped me just because you also get used to like the class sizes. Like I'm not saying I had like 150 students like for every class. I think the most I had in my class was 90 students, and then roughly the other ones were like 20 to 30 students, I would say. But for my first week I was like super anxious. I didn't know what to expect, but as you go through it, you kind of get more used to the space like and what's expected from you. And I also got a planner, which that really helped. Just having a day to day I had to get done, just it made it so much easier for me.
Great, thank you. How about you, Zai?
Yeah, I have very similar experiences, and um going into our first online courses was nerve-wracking yet exciting. I feel like being in step and building those connections made me more excited than nervous, because I already feel like I have the proper tools to get, like, yes, of course we won't know everything, but we have the proper tools to know how to succeed.
Great. So I had a question that just came to me right now. In terms of your classes, how do you feel, if at all, are your classes different now, right? Your first semester fall college classes compared to high school? What were some of the really big differences that you just had to figure out how to adapt to?
I feel like in high school we were given the information we needed to know, whereas in college we have to learn it ourselves. And I it was I feel like usually like we learn our content through homework, and because we learn our content through homework, we have to pace ourselves with homework. In high school, I was the type of person who, the day something was assigned, I just want to get it done. That's not something that you should really do in college. It's your tool to succeed. So if you just try to get through this tool, you're just cramming information and you're not really processing it. So I feel like taking your time doing your homework is really important. And I think that's one of the main differences. Like, you need to take your time and manage your time rather than just getting through things because you want to get it done.
Thank you. Daisy?
I think one of the differences is also what I said, but like knowing how to time yourself, but also giving yourself time to like study, because in college you can't cram, like that won't work. And I actually like already was trying to like kind of study and review my notes like 2 weeks before exams, which like in high school, like I would be like, the test is tomorrow. I could like probably study a little tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, and that would be good. But I don't think you can do that in college, because I realized that right from like one of my first exams, like I'm like, yeah, I can't be doing this. Like this is not gonna work. And then also the amount of work you have to do on your own would be like much more than in high school. Like I remember like, yes, I would get an amount of homework in high school, but it wouldn't be like that much like in college. Like, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So going back to STEP and knowing that you worked in the summer with the mentor, I want you to think back again to summer 2020 and your mentors. What do you feel was one of the best pieces of advice that they gave you throughout that 2 weeks that we worked together? And you can give them a shout out too. You can name your mentors if you remember their name.
I think for mine, Ryan really emphasized this, which is networking, like having your, just with professors, don't be shy, reach out to like your friends, like you're all in the same boat, like you're all going through this together, so why suffer alone? And then also because we did falls on Friday, on like Fridays, Monica also gave so much advice to me, so thank you, because she was also a aerospace engineer. She's like, oh, make sure you like take this professor, and but also what she emphasized was, I would say, um, she said something like time management. Like she really gave me that like whole process, and like also do things that you like and to keep your mind off of the whole engineering thing. So yeah.
Thank you. How about you, Zai?
I think one of the best pieces of advice I received from my peer mentors, which were me and Tiara, was to communicate with the professor and go to office hours, because at times they do emphasize on which information you need to know for exams, and it helps you understand like what you should prepare for.
Great. So that's another question that I have for you. What tools did you use, right? We talked about tutoring earlier, and Zai, you talked a little bit about going to office hours. How important were those, and what other tools did you use to help you throughout the semester? Daisy, you talked about your planner. What else did you use? Did you study by yourself? Did you do study groups? If you did study groups, what did those look like? What other platforms did you use in addition to Zoom to be able to study?
I personally did study groups. I usually most I sorry, I mostly used study groups with chemistry, and the way we did it was whenever we'd have a question about mastering in chemistry, we would just write it down if we're unclear about it, and like if we just like have the smallest question about it, we write it down and then we discuss and do more practice problems together on Zoom.
For my case, I know I would also use my like learning community, so it was a lot easier to reach out to classmates, and then that's how I would try to keep in touch. I remember like making one specific friend, because we already had similar courses, and we would like make kind of like study groups, like, oh hey, you're working on the homework, let's work on it together. So that really helped.
Okay, so that's another thing that we know is sometimes anxiety inducing, or just, for someone like me that I'm naturally shy. I don't make friends very quickly, but you definitely need to connect with others, as you mentioned earlier, in terms of what Ryan said to you. How did you make friends in this online setting? And do you feel it was important and or helpful for you this semester?
Given Zoom, it's not the easiest thing, I would say, just because you really have to push yourself to keep that like communication within you two. I know I use GroupMe or like Discord, and that's how I would communicate with just my classmates. And then honestly, it's just you having the will to reach out to them, like, oh, hey, have you done this? Or hey, do you want to meet up to go over, like, I don't know, math homework? So it's just on you more, just having that initiative to go and make that friendship.
Yeah, I completely agree. The friendships I made this semester were like because like one of us took the initiative. I feel like in person things happen more by chance, whereas because we're online we have to push ourselves to talk to people. Um, One of the friends I made uh, asked a question on GroupMe, and because I had the same question, I just private messaged her and said, "Hey, it seems like you and I have this like a lot of the same questions. Do you maybe want to Zoom and just talk about like what like the material?" And another friend of mine straight up asked the group me, can someone please FaceTime me because I need help?" And I do think it's just a lot of like putting yourself out there.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that I feel we stressed a lot in Step in a STEM, right? Looking for help before you need it, knowing where these offices are. So it's really important that you take that chance. When you reached out to that student, what was their reaction? Did they say yes? Did you set up a different phone call? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, they saw the message and they were like, "Oh yeah, please, can we please like contact?" And I think that just shows how much we're on the same boat. Like we're not. I don't think we're ever really struggling alone. I feel like if one person has that question, another 15 students have the same question. So why just not go for it and ask? Because it's just beneficial in the long run.
Great, thank you. Let's see. I have a couple more questions. Office hours. Did both of you go? And if so, what was that like? How did you prepare for them? Let's see. I know that you went. Daisy, did you go to office hours?
I'll be completely honest. I didn't really go to the professor's office hours, but they had TAs and I would go to those because I worked with my schedule. So it was kind of hard to go to the actual professor's office hours, but the TAs were extremely helpful because they also did like final reviews when an exam would come up, and those really helped because it's like they actually were able to answer your questions and they were able to also do like step by step.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. I did utilize office hours, but I ended up going to the SAS Center more and going to TA like student coaches hours more because my it just didn't work well with my schedule. One professor's office hours was during one of my classes, and the other um, professor's office hours was at 7 in the morning, and I could not wake up that early. So I utilized the SAS Center more and student coaches hours more.
Great, thank you. Any things that you feel have stood out so far from the semester? I know that you weren't able to be on campus, but did you go to any events on campus or even for some of your student orgs? Like, what were the mixers like? What is something that you've enjoyed so far?
Well, we have Week of Welcome, which also Step into STEM like introduced us to like the Week of Welcome. So that's the reason why I also did these clubs, because I got involved into Week of Welcome and I was able to see like the clubs I was interested in. And in the clubs that I'm in, like we have what you call like social hours. So you can just play like games like Among Us, or like I remember SWE had a Society of Women's Engineering had a like relax, like de-stress social hour, which like you got to paint. So it was pretty fun.
Thank you. And then, okay, so let's see for this one. So we talked about the expectations and how your classes were different from the ones that you had in high school. If you had a peer mentor outside of STEP, right, how did the mentor help you and how important is mentorship to you? So that's something that we kind of forced you into, right, in STEP in the STEM. but then maybe you self-selected into a mentorship program or you have a faculty mentor. What is that like? How did they help you, and how important is mentorship to you?
So over the summer, while doing Step into STEM, I also did Shark Buddy, and throughout the year, throughout fall semester, I was doing NSCI 198. So I did have a couple of peer mentors, which I found really helpful because, as mentioned, they do help me understand what is to come, and they also tell you, like, if you ask, they'll give you tips. Like for example, for chemistry, typically they would say that the best way to study is to um, read read lecture, like read the book before you attend lecture, and also have the lecture slides up as the professor is speaking. Um, Also, having a peer mentor helped me assess my goals, both long-term and short-term goals, which personally served as a reminder of what I'm working for. Like sometimes I kind of forget like why I'm doing what I'm doing because the homework load can just be a lot. But being with a peer mentor is really nice because they've been in your shoes and they know what it's like, and they can help you just refocus on what you need to think about.
Thank you. Daisy?
So I was able to get one extra peer mentor because I did an Excel group for Engineering 101, which is like a smaller class and you can get peer mentor. And I remember having a peer mentor for that class, and she also introduced like what Step into STEM said, like, oh, we have like the CAPS and we have tutoring. And she would also like do like weekly check-ins, which honestly was really helpful because it's like reminds you of what you said you were going to do. Like it holds you accountable. And also she also mentioned like the SMART goals, which we did go over into Step into STEM. And she also was one of probably also like the reason why I was able to do like much more of the things I wanted to do in my first semester. So I said I wanted to like do beach scholarships, and I'm like, she's like, okay, we'll set up a plan of how you can allocate your time to actually meet that goal, and I was able to do that. And I remember she mentioned like also the social hours the engineering center had, because I think she was also a tutor for that, so she would say the resources that they were given to us. So,
Okay, thank you. So as both of you were mentioning that, I want to go back to the beginning because you applied, right? You did your Step into STEM program, and it seems like you've been hearing a lot of consistent messages in terms of balance, time management, goal planning and setting to be able to get you from point A to point B. Why did you choose your majors? So can you remind us again what your majors are and share with us, right? I know that 4 to 6 years down the line, you're like, I don't know right now. I can't think of what I'm going to be doing in 4 years, but I think you've had a really good experience so far in your first semester, and you're continuing with your major. Why did you choose your major? And again, introduce your major to us. Easy, I'm going to have you go
okay.
first.
So my major was aerospace engineering, and the reason why I chose aerospace engineering, like I knew I like my math and science, but even since like elementary, I was always like intrigued into those more. And I remember just like in 5th grade, I went to like a science camp, and then that's where I got to see like Jupiter. I'm just like, it's so amazing, and just like this whole telescope. And I was always fascinated by space, and it was until maybe high school that I actually knew what aerospace engineering was a bit more, because I was in like already like some science clubs. So I was introduced, like I was like already solidified with what I kind of wanted to do. And then a dream of mine always was like, what of mine is like to be like a NASA astronaut. So I'm like, that's like the ultimate goal. So it's mostly that too. And then I like building things too. It's like just the hands-on and everything. So yeah,
Great.
that's fine.
Thank you. How about you, Zai?
So I'm a pre-molecular cell biology and physiology student, and I chose my major because I do eventually want to go to med school. I mean, I know that I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know that I've always been fascinated by like being in the like just being in healthcare and being in the medical field, wherever that may be. And I think it's also because I'm fortunate enough to be in an environment where a lot of my family members are in the medical field. So because I've been mostly because I grew up in that environment, I was also drawn to that environment, and I was like I'm more familiar with being like in the medical field. So
Great, thank you. So I'm not out of questions just yet, but I'm running out of questions, which is a really good thing because I feel like you've shared so much information so far. I'm going to ask you two more questions. You participated in STEP and we tried to make it as inclusive of information as possible, but sometimes information just slips or it doesn't go in, right? So, having had your first semester on the campus, what is one tip that you wish somebody would have told you that you feel you didn't quite get from either STEP or the learning communities? What is something that you feel you learned on your own that you wish somebody would have told you? Sorry, I'm back. Have you had a chance to think about it? Or are we just that great that we did everything? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, pretty much. I think everything was pretty much said, but I think you have to take what you learn and actually put it into action. So for my case, it was because I'm very introverted. I'm an introverted person, but like giving yourself that push, like that extra push, like don't hesitate to do anything. If you're struggling, go to tutoring, like that from like that statement to like that action. Like I think that is what you have to push yourself to do.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say that.
Thank you.
I agree, and I also I know that we were definitely told to manage our time. I heard a lot about, oh, don't cram, don't don't wait until the very last night to start studying. I didn't do that, but I guess I didn't realize that you should pace yourself when you do your assignments. You can't just do everything in one go. So I feel like personally maybe that wasn't emphasized enough. But yeah, I think pretty soon like I realized that you shouldn't like finish your homework at once because that takes like 6 hours, and you shouldn't like sit in a computer for 6 hours.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And knowing, right, that you were taking 4 to 5 different classes, you can't take 6 hours to do one complete assignment and then pacing
Mhm.
yourself out and balancing. Okay. As you embark into the spring semester, what is something that you want to share with incoming students, right? At this moment, they should have applied and they'll start getting their decision soon. What is something that you would like to share for incoming freshmen? And then afterwards, we'll ask another question about what would you like to share for your peers? Because they will be the ones seeing this, right? Them and their parents. What is one message that you want to share to them? Maybe words of encouragement or words of wisdom. So let's start with incoming freshmen. What is something that you would want to share for them?
I would say that it's okay to be scared and it's okay to take your time. I feel like when in high school when people talk about college, it seems a little vague. It just seems like this scary thing, and it can be scary sometimes, and it's okay because you're learning and like not only are you learning new material, you're relearning how to learn. So it's a lot. It can be a lot to balance at once. So it's definitely okay to feel scared and overwhelmed. Just know that you have resources to go to, and that you do not have to go through what you're going through alone. Like people will always have the same questions, will always be going through the same challenges. So it's really good to reach out.
Thank you. How about you, Daisy?
I would say it's okay to feel those emotions that you're feeling. You have like tools and resources to like help you overcome them. And then also it's okay to also not have your major or anything like decided. Like everything changes, everything happens for a reason, although that sounds cliche, but it's true. And go beach.
Thank you. You're like, yes, come here and apply to the Step into STEM program, please. Okay, so now that we have the message for any incoming STEM freshmen, what would you like to say to your peers? Any words of encouragement, or even something that you're planning on doing? So you went through the first semester and you figured out what worked for you, and you figured out probably what didn't work for you, right? What is one thing that you will be working on improving in the spring semester? And it could be personal or academic, but personal, professional related.
I think I would improve on like my mental health. Like sometimes you can get so focused on school that you forget to give yourself some time, like take breaks. Like it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a rest every like every like I don't know, like sometimes I used to do like 30 minutes and then 5 minute break, 30 minutes and five like because sometimes it does get overwhelming, especially on Zoom. Like your eyes can get strained for so long, and just like giving yourself like a chance to go outside and take a walk and like let yourself breathe and relax, and then come back and then get yourself like again in like Zoom, and then yeah.
Great, thank you. Hi.
I agree, and I will be taking that advice. Uh, I also would. I think it's best to stick to a schedule. Like you said, it can be overwhelming, and it's good to have like 30 minutes of work and then 5 minutes break. I think it's super important to stick to that schedule because sometimes I feel like I've tried that and then eventually I stopped because I was like, no, I can't take a break. I need to finish this. It's not good because eventually it's just a recipe for burnout in my opinion. So I think like sticking with a schedule and looking out for yourself is super important.
I think you're on mute.
I am. It didn't happen the entire time until now. So as I was saying, thank you so much for your words of wisdom. We really appreciate you both taking the time out to chat with us, to reflect, right, on Step into STEM, but more specifically you as a student and how you've managed to make that transition. And your first semester unfortunately was online, but it was the safest way that we can manage. And you are now officially one semester down, and you can definitely start the spring semester on a positive note. And then maybe one day soon, maybe in the fall, we'll get to meet in person, right? We've been lifelong friends since summer, and so we'll have that same relationship when we come back onto campus. So I'm going to